This is a video that has been requested by me to do for a while, and one that I've thought about doing, but I never did it because anything that's like passport bro adjacent content, I never wanted to be bunched up with that because I'm not a passport bro. Nonetheless, fellas, as I always do, I share my full, honest perspective. And anytime you make a video talking about a country or your experiences or anything adjacent to that, people are always going to feel bothered. But to be honest, I feel like that's just a lack of intelligence and comprehension, because when you talk about your objective experience, it's your objective experience. If somebody were to be talking about, things about Haiti or the States and they were objectively true, me personally, I'd be like, he's right. But this is the brutal truth that I've learned about women just from my experience of living in Colombia for almost half a decade. So, first things first, one of the things that I've noticed by living here, and by the way, I've been to 30 plus countries. I'm a polyglot, speak multiple languages. I've lived all over the world, okay? And Colombia, believe it or not, is still my favorite country, which is why I live here the majority of the year, okay? And one of the things that I've learned about at least sexual dynamics or relationships, dating, and women here is that, yes, you will come across more feminine women here as opposed to if you're from a country like the US, Canada, things of that nature. But just like any other country that I've been to, feminism is and has made its way here, and Western media and ideology is permeating through this society. So feminism has been on the rise. One thing I do want to make clear, which is why I don't fuck with the passport bro movement, because guys will come to countries like here and they'll pay for prostitutes or escorts, and then they'll go back home and say, oh, the women are so feminine, man. They're so feminine. Meanwhile, you're literally paying for play, right? And to each their own. If that's what you do, if that's the kind of lifestyle that you like, okay, but don't make it seem like all these women are just completely different than what you get in any other country. Because the truth is, with technology, we're on a global scale now. Like, everybody knows what's up. So there is feminism here. And yes, on average, the women will be more feminine here. But the truth is, if you don't do your due diligence and do the work on yourself as a man to develop yourself, I'm not just talking about financially, I'm talking about your character, your mind, your spirituality, who you are, you're gonna get laps ran around you here. In fact, in many ways, I would say women here know how to run better game than women in the States. So you really have to be on your P's and Q's, especially if you don't speak the language, right? And so for me, I speak very fluent Spanish. For those of you guys that follow me, you've seen on my channel, I speak Spanish at a C2 level, which is the closest that you can get to being a native, okay? And I have great relationships here, friends. I'm integrated with high society here. I know very good, powerful, hardworking people here. And in the almost half a decade that I've lived here, I've only had two girlfriends, two women that have made it to girlfriend status, right? And I've got a great girl right now in my life, great girl, good family, and things are fantastic. Things are great. If things were to, for some reason, not work out, I can honestly say that I probably would not date another Colombian. Not because there's anything wrong with Colombian women per se, which we'll get into, but simply because it is difficult to find a good woman here, from my honest experience. Doesn't mean that it's not possible. Yeah, you can find great women here, especially if you live here and you speak the language very well and you have good social groups and good friend group. But here's why I say, in my experience, it can be difficult to find a good woman here, right? Now, what do I mean by good woman? By good woman, and again, this is my preference, I'm gonna say one that has less than 10 bodies, I'm going to say one that's not covered in tattoos. I'm going to say one that comes from a two-parent household, one that is educated, one that's not going to cheat, because cheating is very big in this culture. Not all women, there are faithful women, but cheating is something that is prevalent in this society. And this society, and you can ask any Colombian. In fact, Latin culture is pretty much like this. But this society is also very sexual. And so what that means is from a child, you're just exposed to a lot more things. So children here are exposed to a lot more things, right? Your prostitution here is legal. So, kids are exposed to that, the music, things of that nature in the barrio. So these are just things that you have to keep in mind. Now, every city in Colombia is different, right? I have found that the women in Bogota are typically a little bit more educated. I know a lot of paisas might not like that I'm saying that, because between Bogota and Medellin, they kind of have this like rivalry going on, but it's the capital. Now, back to what I was saying about why finding a good woman here can be difficult. For those reasons that I just named. Now, if you don't have an issue with a woman having multiple sexual partners, or tattoos, or not being as educated, or not coming from a two-parent household, then you're gonna be fine. But if you do care a little bit more about that, and if you're a man that has worked on yourself and that continues to work on yourself, it can be a little bit more difficult. Not impossible, but difficult from my honest experience. Now, what I've noticed from living there for basically half a decade in terms of female nature is, yes, like I said, the women here are more feminine than what you might be used to in a Western country like Canada, or let's even say a Spain, or let's even say a Denmark, or a Nordic country, which are very feminist societies, right? Because I've spent time in Iceland, very feminist. They're more feminine here, but relationships here, you see directly how transactional relationships are. And what I mean by this is every relationship to a degree is transactional, whether you like it or not. As men, it's our job to provide, to protect, right? And to guide, etc. Women typically bring femininity, cooling energy, right? Helping around the house, raising the kids, etc., typically. Now, you'll find that is the norm in this society. But women here, especially in Antioquia or Medellin, will expect you to pay for more things, especially if you are a foreigner. Now, me personally, I get their perspective, but I don't like that feeling, which is why, I haven't had a lot of serious relationships here. For me, I'm a global man, so I like to mesh well in different cultures, and I like to do what locals do. I like to respect the culture, right? And live as a local. So don't expect me to take you to 5-star restaurants every night when a Colombian dude wouldn't do that. That's something that a lot of foreigners here will encounter, right? So this is something that you got to be wary of. I have seen on both spectrums, with females and males, how it looks when sexually you're out of control. I mean, I've seen every and anything here, right? Medellin specifically, yes, in this city, you can get into a lot of trouble. You can have a lot of fun. A lot of foreigners come here, get drugged up and get killed. There's a lot of temptation here. I've oftentimes got asked, Dud, how do you live in Colombia and you focus? Simple, I just stay away from all of the bullshit. I don't club like that. I don't drink, right? I don't smoke. Like, I'm not looking for prostitutes, right? I've got a woman. Like, I'm not looking for none of that bullshit. This is also a great place to lock in and work and build your empire and focus. And there's lots of lovely culture here and beautiful scenery as I'm looking out at the mountains right now. Lots of beautiful things here. But you can also find yourself in a lot of sexual deviancy if you can't control yourself. And so I've said this before. I've met dudes on a Friday night who have flown in and they got their body bags flown out on a Sunday evening because they got scopolamine and killed by some prostitutes. And this is also why I really don't like hanging out with foreigners here, unless they're like a businessman and they built something or they have something going on for themselves. Because I don't want to be associated with any of that stereotypical gringo prostitution, drugs bullshit. I hate that shit, right? And I've seen how women here, what they'll do for some money. And it's not just here. In the States, a lot of women are modern day prostitutes too, just differently with how they do it. They may not be standing on the corner, but for some change, they'll take a trip and they'll bust it. You know what I mean? Like prostitution is the oldest profession and it's all over. You feel me? I was pleasantly surprised when 2 months ago, when I went to the UAE, Dubai, and there was prostitutes everywhere. And I didn't know. I was naive. I didn't know. The same way how when I first came here to Colombia in 2021, I didn't know that there was prostitution here, right? So these are just things that you have to keep in mind, bro. And I've learned like true female nature, and I've seen hypergamy, and I've seen what women will do even if they have a good man here, right? My Colombian friends, I've seen them get cheated on by Colombian women with other Colombian dudes and with foreigners. I've seen that happen. I've seen hypergamy in its purest form. Now, it's not just all bad. I've also seen really good, faithful women here. Women that hold it down, women that love their man, right? I've seen really beautiful family here, right? I've seen really good values and manners. In fact, that's the main thing that I love about living here is the manners, is that people greet you with respect. That's something that I haven't experienced in many other countries. So there's good and there's bad. But when we're talking about like the brutal honesty of like sexual dynamics here, it's taught me exactly what it's like when you can get any woman you want, right? If you have money, right? Or if you have your shit together. It's taught me what women are willing to accept when they have a top percentile man. It's taught me what women are willing to do to get out of their economic situation, which is everywhere, because everybody wants to have a good life, right? Even in the States, you got a lot of prostitution, online, things of that nature. But here, it's just more honest with it and more open about it. Whereas in the States, women will, try to get their own bag, which is fine, work, and, take on traits of a traditional man, but then simultaneously want to have a traditional man and want to have that man upkeep his duties. Meanwhile, she's masculine, etc. So I understand the frustration in the West. I understand the tension. Whereas we're here, a woman will be straight up and be like, look, I'm looking for this and I'll take care of this. I want you to take care of that. And this is how we can build. Something else here is that there is a lot of single mothers, being honest. I think, if I'm not mistaken, in Latin America, Colombia is the number 1 or number 2 country for single mothers. I think about 70 to 75% of the women here, roughly those numbers, don't quote me, are single mothers. And so, as I mentioned earlier, this is a very sexual society. And a lot of women don't grow up with fathers in the household. And you see it by how they move, by how they think. A lot of women, especially in Medellin, are covered in tattoos. You'll see there's like this beehive mentality of women will even get the same kind of tattoos, like triple numbers on their neck, on their throat, right here. You'll see that a lot, or just many women covered in tattoos. Personally, that's not a preference for me. That might be okay for you, right? But there's a lack of fathers in the house, right? And so that affects how women grow up. Doesn't mean you can't find a good girl here. Doesn't mean you can't potentially find a wife here if that's what you're looking for. But it does make it more difficult because in any society, when the father isn't in the household, the woman isn't going to grow up with a natural respect for authority and a natural loving relationship with a man. So what this looks like is a lot of women here, unfortunately, start having sex young. And unfortunately, a lot of women here have been abused by older guys. That's something else that happens here. And it's very unfortunate. And I'm happy that the government is actually cracking down on this a lot more, because it is something that happens to a lot of young ladies here where they do end up getting abused, whether it's from somebody that they know in the barrio or they just start exploring and there's not that much sexual education, which is why there's so many single mothers here. And so in order for you to find a woman who has, let's say, less than 10 bodies, who's not a single mom, who has a great job, who comes from a two-parent household, who's educated, right, who's not covered in tattoos, that might seem like that's asking for a lot, when in reality it's not. But in a society like this, it might be asking for a lot. You feel what I'm saying? So this is why I say it may not be the easiest. If you're a man right now looking for, to potentially start building with a woman, to get a girlfriend or to get a wife or to cultivate something deeper, this might not be the society for you. You feel me? Now, for me, when I met my girl, I wasn't looking for anything. And being candid, I had a roster. She just so happened to outperform all of them and is just a phenomenal woman. But if it wasn't for that, I would still be single and I wouldn't be looking to take anything serious here because of everything that I just mentioned. You feel what I'm saying? Just being 100% candid. So this is the brutal shit that I've learned about women from living in Colombia is women will do anything when it comes to securing their survival. Your girl might be on a yacht with somebody, right? She might tell you that, she's at work, but she's doing this, she's doing that. Like, I have very good relationships with very good people here, Colombian, Venezuelan, from all over. And everybody will agree on everything I just said, everything. And honestly, I'm probably even holding back saying some things because this is on camera and I want to be very respectful to the country that I call home and the country that I genuinely love living in and that I foresee myself having a home base here for decades to come. But being honest, there are things that I would like to see improve. But these are some of the realities behind like intersexual dynamics, dating. You got the single motherhood. You have a very sexual society. You have prostitution. You have, a lack of fathers in the household. You have a lot of different things. Now, when it comes to other things, like, for example, if you do find a good girl here, some of the characteristics that I've noticed that I actually really like, at least in my honest experiences, women here will tell you how they feel. From my experience, I'm not saying all. In comparison to like when I lived in Italy or in the US or Canada, women here, like when they really like you, they like you. They're gonna tell you, right? Te quiero. They're gonna tell you te amo, right? They're gonna tell you how they feel about you, and they're gonna be extremely clingy in terms of like, they're not gonna really wanna do anything without their man. Now, a lot of guys get annoyed by this. By me, like for me, it's not annoying at all. I would rather have my woman clingy. Now, yes, I want my woman to have her own life, but I would rather have a clingy woman than a woman that's playing interest games and acting like she's not really interested and then doing all these mental loopholes and gymnastics. I don't have time for that. But women here, when they really like you, they'll be clingy. They'll include you in everything. And also their family is a very big thing, which is something else that I really love about here, is family is very important here. So when you're dating a woman, it's like you're dating her family here too. It's like you gotta be good with the mom, with the sisters, with the brothers, with the cousins, with the abuelas and all that shit. For me, that's very similar to my culture as a Haitian. So like that's not an issue for me. I know for some guys, it is an issue. But when I say clingy, I mean clingy, right? Like your woman will want to be on you 24/7. Like if you work from home and your girl is home that day with you, like good luck. She's gonna be trying to kiss on you all day and hugging you, and some guys that's annoying. I understand. To me, sometimes when I'm in work mode, that can be annoying, but you just gotta be able to communicate to your girl. Something else that I've also noticed is that women here can be very jealous. Now, you might say that can be all of Latin America, but I mean like real jealous. Like women will do full background checks on you. Like women will literally, if you're dating a girl here and she really likes you and she's not cheating on you or playing games, she will literally take a screenshot of your follower list, go through your whole follower list on Instagram, and the second you follow somebody new, she'll notice and go look to see who you follow to see if it's a girl, because they're just very jealous, right? They're very possessive here, and depending on what you like or what you don't like, that can be annoying. For me personally, I don't like the jealousy. Jealousy is a natural part of somebody loving you, which is understandable. Personally, I don't like that, but it's just what I've noticed about here. You feel me? So it is. I tell you what though, I would rather have a clingy, jealous girl that's about me than have a girl, again, that's playing interest games, that's cheating, doing all this bullshit. So it's like, you can't complain about women not really being interested or playing games. And then when you get a woman that's all about you, you're complaining that she's too clingy. And I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about this too, Martel. And he was talking about how his wife in Romania, like she's all about him. And anytime he has to go somewhere, it's like she gets sad and like she'll just literally wait for him to come back. And we laughed and joked, and he said, yo, Dud, he was like, dudes really don't know what it means or what it looks like to have a woman fully devoted to you. When a woman is fully devoted to you, she's obsessed with you. That's how you know that she's absolutely in love with you. So that's one thing that I've noticed about Colombian society. When a woman is really into you, she's gonna be devoted to you. And I think that that's personally great. So fellas, that's the video. If you have lived in Colombia or if you have dated a Colombian woman, share your thoughts down below. Again, these are just all my opinions and experiences. Respectfully, you don't have to agree with anything that I have said in this video. It's all based off of what I've experienced. Share your thoughts down below. Salute.